Are we just some meat machines that perceive things and act as we've evolved to? Well, kinda, yeah. Have you ever thought, why did someone do that? It's completely illogical. They got hurt. It lost them all their money. It ruined their body for life. Why did I do that? It made no sense at all, yet I just did that. I'm so stupid. Hey there, you're not stupid. You just don't understand reinforcement yet. Teach me your ways, you beautiful beast. Today we're going to talk about why people do things. All the things. Mundane things, cool things, sad things, stupid things, attention whoring. All the things. Buckle up, buckaroos. We're about to understand more behavior. If you watched the last video on science and psychology, you'll know that behavioral psychologists are freaking weirdos. This is because for us to be able to apply science and logic to behavior, we have to view behavior as a deterministic subject matter. What this means is that there are clear inputs and outputs for behavior, just like there are for every other natural phenomenon that science can be applied to. If I wanted to predict how fast a ball will roll down a hill, I may look at the inputs such as the mass of the object, force of the push, smoothness of the surface, any barriers, etc., and how that affects the outputs, meaning the speed and location of the ball at any given moment. Behavioral psychologists study the things in the environment that the person experiences, the inputs, and how that changes an individual's behavior, the outputs. Instead of looking at things like mass and friction, we study inputs such as triggers for behavior, desire for certain things, how likely an outcome is to occur, the individual's history with language surrounding a topic, how effortful a response is, how much an outcome changes behavior, and much more. Your experience with all of these things makes up what we call your behavioral history. Like the inputs that determine where the ball is going, all of these environmental variables, when processed through your biological system, will dictate your behavior. Not convinced? Stay until the end of this video to see how this theory builds up into a mind-blowing conclusion. Every organism is both enabled and limited by their senses. For example, if you're deaf, you may not react to this noise. If you are hearing, that probably sucked. Sorry, but hopefully that gets the point across. Our experiences can also shape how much we'll react to something. If you are constantly in environments where spontaneous loud buzzers go off, you may not have reacted to that sound as much. The way that behavior analysts look at behavior is by breaking it down into small building blocks, which we'll call behavioral relations. A behavioral relation is broken down by our ABCs. A stands for the antecedents, or what the individual is experiencing before the behavior. In this channel, we'll often refer to this as the context of the behavior, and this includes things like triggers and motivating factors. B stands for behavior, which is anything that anyone does. Literally, anything. Whether it's thinking, talking, large hand gestures, yelling, screaming, you get it. And lastly, C stands for the consequences of behavior, which we can think about as what happens after the behavior, whether it's good or bad. Let's break down one of the most important concepts in psychology and how this relates. It's called the law of effect. The law of effect states that the effects of our actions determine whether or not those actions will be repeated. The effects here refer to the consequences of behavior. When behavior results in favorable outcomes, it's more likely to be repeated in the future under similar contexts. We call this reinforcement, and it's the reason why anyone does anything. Behavior does not occur without past reinforcement. On the other side of the spectrum, if the behavior occurred and resulted in an unfavorable consequence, the behavior will be less likely to occur. This is called punishment. Since this video is about why people do things and not why they don't do things, we'll focus on reinforcement relations today. You might be asking right now, what about the context for behavior? Isn't that important too? It totally is. The thing about triggers though, is that they only work if there's a history of the consequences backing them up. This is why you don't see many people inserting their money at the empty vending machine. More on this in a future episode. Reinforcement is not just getting cool things, it's having our actions result in cool things. For example, receiving $1 million from your parents when you turn 18 is not reinforcement because you didn't have to do anything. However, working hard at building and maintaining a business and selling your company for $1 million would likely reinforce or increase the likelihood that you would use those same strategies to build and maintain similar kinds of businesses. The only way that we can be certain that reinforcement is occurring is by measuring the behavior. We cannot assume just because someone's action resulted in something that you think is cool, that they experienced it the same way. Our data doesn't lie though. If a behavior is happening more, then that means that there's some kind of reinforcement occurring. Let's look through a few examples. Joanna has to wake up early for the gym one morning at 5 a.m. and there's a super cutie at the check-in. Now she finds herself going to the gym at 5 a.m. once a week, something that never occurred before previously. Reinforcement. Tommy screams at his mom for minutes, "Give me my iPad!" And mom gives him the iPad. Now Tommy does this every time his iPad is taken away. Reinforcement. And mom is now quicker to bring it to him to avoid the screaming, a favorable outcome for both parties in that moment. Reinforcement. How about this one? Sally is working on coloring in class and her classmate peeks over and says, "Wow, that looks really cool." Sally never colors in class again. Reinforcement? No way. Even though her classmate probably intended to compliment her, it was not a favorable outcome for Sally because she stopped coloring. Reinforcement is the bread and butter for why anyone does anything. If there isn't reinforcement, then there is no behavior. Often, reinforcers can be tricky to find, but I promise you there's always something there if you look hard enough. We can break down these reinforcers, or reasons for behavior, into 4 separate large categories: attention, access to something, escape from something, or because of a sensory experience. Let's start with attention. Joanna experienced the attention from the cutie at the gym counter, which increased her behavior of going to the gym at 5 a.m. Attention can take tons of different forms. If we zoomed in on Joanna's interactions, we may even see what types of comments or moves were receiving the kind of attention that she desired from the gym attendant. We saw in Sally's situation, coloring received a compliment, which is a form of attention. If it were desired in that moment, it would likely have reinforced her coloring behavior. Attention can be as quick as an eye glance. If you've worked with troublesome toddlers in the past, you've probably seen them cry vehemently, look at you waiting for any reaction, and then go right back to crying. What about if you reacted, "Stop doing that, you're fine, kid," when the toddler cried? Well, we would again have to look at how much the kid cries in the future to tell if this was reinforcement or not. Just like Sally's compliment didn't act as a reinforcer, it's possible that your criticism didn't act as a punisher as intended and actually was the reason that screaming kept occurring. The same thing with dogs. I've seen so many dogs do something naughty, then look to their owner to see what kind of reaction they'll give. If it was the reaction they wanted, this could explain the continuation of their naughty behavior. Attention is powerful and an incredibly prominent reason why all social creatures do things. Let's say you are going to buy a movie ticket from the person working the desk. "I'd like 2 tickets to see rehashed film number 1253, please." The clerk gives you a blank stare and remains motionless. "Excuse me, I'd like to buy 2 tickets to see rehashed film number 1253, please." Nothing. After a minute or so, you leave and go use the ticket machines to obtain your tickets. What happened? Well, in the past, when you've gone to the clerk at the ticket booth, they responded in a friendly way and eventually got you your tickets. Since this behavior resulted in 2 different things, we might say that it had 2 reasons for occurring: the friendly interaction and receiving the tickets. We can be fairly confident that the friendly interaction that you received in the past is important for this behavior, because otherwise you may have just started by using the machine, which gets you their tickets the same way. Or maybe you have bad history when you have used that machine in the past. It could have been too effortful, complex, or unreliable. It appears that the main reason for this behavior, though, was to receive the tickets. This fits into our next reason why people do things: to get access to stuff. Out of all the reasons, I think that this one is the easiest to understand. When an action results in receiving something cool or useful, individuals are more likely to repeat that behavior. Some examples include buying things, picking flowers, or grabbing a burr. It doesn't have to be permanent access. Access can be temporary, such as when borrowing something, renting out a car, or hiring someone for a service. Some of these behaviors can even be sneaky. Have you ever been invited to a party where there's some good food cooking, but you don't know how to ask for it? I know I have. I've pulled out a nonchalant comment like, "That pizza smells so good." If I'm lucky, my friend replies, "Oh, did you want a slice?" And in my head, I'm watching Little Success Baby do a "fuck yes." You bet your ass that's reinforcement, and this experience likely made me make more comments like that in the future. Some ninjas might not even wait to be offered and just take it and scarf it down when nobody's looking. Different way to get it, but the reasoning for that behavior is the same. Boo! Boo! The third reason why behavior occurs is to escape unfavorable things. When this is the case, the context for the behavior is the individual experiencing something that sucks. When the behavior occurs, the unfavorable thing is either removed or is lessened. For example, if you hate my voice, appearance, and content, you can hit the old reliable X in the corner. Please don't hit the reliable X in the corner. And you'll immediately be relieved of having to look at and hear my stupid face. When a commercial comes on that is too loud, turning that volume down would remove that aversive loudness and make that behavior more likely under similar contexts. What's something that you hate? What do you tend to do to get rid of it? Post in the comments and let's see if anyone has a similar issue with some new strategies. Sometimes we escape things that are uncomfortable on their own. If you have an itchy mosquito bite, putting on an anti-itch cream will likely remove that itch immediately. This happened automatically without involving anyone else. And the experience was all internal. Nobody could really tell from the outside if the itch went away or ever even existed. Removing an uncomfortable sensation by doing something is a form of sensory experience, which is the last category of reasons why people do things. Sensory behaviors are ones that feel good by completing them on their own. Oftentimes, as we've seen, there are multiple reasons for behavior. Stretching typically removes the tightness in my muscles and feels good on its own. Two simultaneous but different consequences for this behavior that keep it going. The removal of the tightness is both an escape and sensory reason for stretching, while the pleasant feelings obtained by stretching are sensory alone. Let's look at some other sensory behaviors. Turning on lights could be considered a sensory behavior because it results in the removal of darkness and the illumination of your surroundings. My favorite behavior, eating, also occurs for sensory reasons. Taste, textures, and bodily energy all help to keep me eating all day. Most individual sports such as skiing, cycling, skateboarding, and others often occur for sensory reasons as well. The sensations that the individual experiences on their own is enough to get those behaviors to keep occurring for the enthusiasts of those activities. There are tons more. What are some of your most frequented sensory behaviors? Well, there they are. The 4 reasons why every action has ever occurred. The reasons why every one of your actions has ever occurred. Still skeptical? Although these are the reasons for behavior to occur, there is much more to look at to get a more complete picture of someone's behavioral history. 2 of the most important are context and language, which we'll be diving into during some of our upcoming videos. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the bigger picture of behavioral history. It's worth the trip because you'll learn some of the most pragmatic ways to understand anyone's behavior and effective strategies that can be used to solve our own problems and or help out our willing community members. So is that it? Are we just some meat machines that perceive things and act as we've evolved to? Well, kinda, yeah. Is that scary? Kinda, yeah. The thing is, reinforcement theory has been proven scientifically over and over again. We're now seeing more of these principles applied in more traditional psychology as well, bringing even more validation from academia. At this point, you can either deny reality or use it to better the world. I choose the latter. Are you with me? You might not know who you are or where you're going, and there's nothing wrong with that. You are complex and completely unique, made up of your own combination of behavioral building blocks thrown into your meat machine. Even if you have an identical twin, your behavioral history is completely your own. It's impossible to replicate, and that's really beautiful. By focusing on behavioral history, we have the best shot at understanding how those blocks have made us who we are, which gives us the best chance of making us into the best versions of ourselves. Science hasn't really let us down before. The magic and mystery still lies in the endless layers of detail that make up our histories. Although it's incredibly complex, it's possible to understand the relevant components in accurate ways with the right scientific methods. Want to learn more about who you really are? Check out our video, Who Are You? Whoa, we just got pretty deep there. I'd love to know what you're thinking about in the comment section. What challenges do you have to this theory? Do you find the idea that we're just input-output meat machines peaceful or unsettling? Can you think of any situations where a behavior is too mysterious to solve? I can't wait to read your thoughts. That's all for this one. See you on the next video at Understanding Behavior.